How to know which marketing strategy is best for your business. I'm Morris from CreateGrowProfit.com, and today I'm speaking to Dr. Annie Cole from Money Essentials. Annie, thank you so much for being here today. Where are you calling in from?
I'm excited to be here. I am actually over in the US on the West Coast. I'm in Washington State.
When you help people with their marketing strategies, one thing that makes you so unique is that you are very data driven. You don't just test things out randomly. You want to make sure that all the marketing decisions made are based on data. What brought you to this unique approach to your marketing and the work that you do with your clients?
My background is actually as a data analyst, and that has infused everything that I do. And I also think it's very, very helpful in the work I do now, helping business owners with their marketing. So I went to school, got my doctorate in education research, went off and got a job at an ed tech startup and was their research analyst, was all the way promoted to their VP of research, and got to really see firsthand what it means to work under a president and a CEO and help them use data to inform decision making. So, for example, one day I might have been doing interviews or focus groups with their customers to understand, what are you liking about the products? What's challenging about the products? The next day I'm looking at their web traffic analytics and saying, hey, we're getting a lot of traffic from this random referral site. Maybe we should set up an affiliate partnership. So, looking at the data, I realized is so insightful and can help you really lean into what you know is working or fix a problem like a leaky funnel or a customer issue that you never would have thought about. So I've used all of that information in my own work now as a consultant and a freelancer, helping other business owners figure out, okay, when it comes to your marketing, we can actually set up a lot of testing and hypotheses, kind of coming back to that high school, science experiment. You can actually say, I'm going to test this out. I think I'm going to get this result. So let's see if I actually do. Look at the data and then decide if that's going to be worth it for your business. So it's just a great way to figure out what's going to work well and what's not going to work well in your business.
I like that shift in perspective on marketing, particularly where let's not get hung up on success and failure. Let's look at it as an experiment.
Absolutely. And I think that that's a great point because a lot of folks, especially when you first start out, I mean, there's so much bad information online that says, oh, it's going to be so easy. You're going to get clients right away. You're going to start making tens of thousands of dollars. Maybe you will, but most likely you won't. Most people don't. And it takes a lot of experimenting to get there. Depending on your strategy, let's say you want to focus on getting your website to rank high in Google rankings with SEO. That takes months and months and months of work. So you can't just say, my goal is to rank really high in month one. So we also want to use expectations and data together to say, this is realistically what could happen in the next 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, and then measure and see if that actually happened.
Which kind of clients do you work with at the moment, or what are the types of clients you want to work with at this time?
Most of my clients do very similar work to me. I launched my own business last year. It's a financial coaching company called Money Essentials for Women. I help exclusively women with their finances. So, a lot of financial planning, investing, career coaching, those kind of pieces. Mostly women who are in their late 20s, all the way up to their 40s and 50s, mid career women who are making good money and realizing, I just want to figure out what to do with this money. I'm making good money. So now what are the opportunities available to me? And as I launched that business, I just found that I had so many leads coming in the door. I had over 500 leads coming in every single month to the point that I actually started building out a directory of other coaches to hand my leads off to because I just truly couldn't serve them all. So what I do now when I'm helping other coaches, especially, is I teach them the same things that helped me start my business. And some of that is social media strategy. Some of it is what to say in the DMs, cold outreach, podcast interviewing, PR, and media features. It's lots of different pieces. And then depending on what the coach wants to do, we can lean into one strategy over another.
Were these all the things that you were doing to generate 500 leads per month? You said social media, cold outreach, podcast guesting, PR. Was it all of these things?
Yes, it actually my full list is 14 different pieces, and sometimes people are shocked to learn that there's so many moving pieces. But I would actually say the more you learn how to repurpose content, it's actually not hard at all. So for example, let's say we record this podcast interview. I then post this on multiple social channels. So I post it on LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, and my Instagram. And then I talk about it in a blog post. I also might have a freebie or a funnel set up that people go through. I might also mention my book here. So then someone goes off and purchases my book either as an ebook or through Amazon. And then maybe later on, I do a media feature and I mention this podcast. So, it's once you learn how to do all the different pieces, you really can use one idea or one piece of content across multiple sites. And what you're doing is you're just 10 timesing the amount of eyes that get on your content, because the person that's on Instagram may not be the same person who is reading an online article from NerdWallet, and you're going to get in front of both people. So it's not a lot more work to just rapidly increase your visibility.
So you have a really good system then to serve all of these 14 strategies or platforms, right? That must be the key.
Yep, that is the key. And that's also what I teach clients a lot of times is that for me, for example, my process, I have a spreadsheet. I do it once a month now, and I have all the days planned out. So I have one idea or one piece of content I'm going to create. And that's what's going to be the root of my email for my newsletter, my social media content, my blog content, a post on Pinterest. All the different pieces are going to come from that one piece. And it's very laid out. It's also very intentional. I think another thing that a lot of folks don't know when they first start their business is how important messaging is and being grounded in psychology, because the way that we say things matters. So it's not just, I'm going to plaster a message across 14 different channels. The message has to be good, and the message has to draw people in. It has to be meeting their need. You need to convince them that you're credible, and then actually pique interest to make them want to learn more. So all of that, really, you become a copywriter in the process as well, because you have to be able to create these really good messages.
Yeah, messaging is a huge deal. I want to ask you about messaging a bit more in a bit, but first, in your process of repurposing content and serving all these platforms, how much AI do you use right now to make your system work?
Oh, that's a great question. So actually, I love and hate AI. I'll just admit that. I use AI quite a bit, but I always start with original ideas. I do have some prompts that I've shared with clients. If you're feeling really stuck, you can put this in to come up with the ideas. Most of the time, if you are grounded enough in your customer's profile and you know who you're speaking to, you can come up with the content quite easily. So I will come up with the content, and then I have AI prompts for turning that content into different formats. And I've specifically, I have a LinkedIn example, turn this blurb into a LinkedIn post in this format, turn this into a carousel in the format I like. So I'm using it for the repurpose, less for the original idea and the writing. I still have not found that AI is able to write a caption quite as well as I can do by hand. So I definitely do that by hand and then use this AI to do the restructuring, which has been really, really helpful.
I liked it a lot. One of the biggest lessons I've learned about using AI, it was from a different interview guest recently, Ellie Feiner. He's deep in AI. He uses AI for so many things that my brain is just wrapping its head around. The biggest lesson I learned from him is don't use AI like a calculator, use AI as a collaborator. And yeah, right, that little mindset shift, the output that I'm getting from AI is so much better now because I also go into it with different expectations. I'm not treating it as input, output, give me the answers, give me the results. I'm thinking through problems, thinking through questions with AI as a conversation partner.
Yes, I think that I wouldn't have put it into those words, but I so agree with that, because you as the human have the emotional connection, you have the passion, you have the insight, and you know how to connect with other people in the way you want to. And AI doesn't have that. But if you think of them as a collaborator to potentially throw a different approach or a different idea at something, that's really powerful, instead of just tell me what to do right off the bat, when they don't have the mindset you have. So they're going to have a harder time actually giving you that original output that you want.
You said the key element though is your marketing is grounded in your client avatar. You have a deep understanding of who you're serving, who you're speaking to. And I think many times when people struggle with marketing, the reflex is to look for new marketing hacks or marketing strategies, when in fact the missing piece is how well do they understand their customer?
Oh, yeah. That's so in my program, the How to Get Clients program, we go through 4 phases. Phase 4 is the marketing. You don't even get to that until you've done phase 1, 2, and 3. Phase 1 is right product, right avatar, right customer journey. If you don't have those things really solid, you will be dumping your time and money into marketing that potentially is not going to convert. And that doesn't matter at all. If you were getting, hundreds and millions of people, you're going viral, but you're not making any sales, you're not going to be able to run a business. So the number one thing you need to do are those first three things. So right product. A lot of times you can do a ton of free testing. You could say, hey, I came up with this idea. You post about it online freely and say, is anyone interested in joining this program? Is anyone interested in a free guide on X? You can start to do some free user testing to see if people are interested. Right avatar. There's tons of stuff online. I could talk for hours about this, but on how to get really clear on your avatar. And then user journey. A lot of people forget about this. User journey is literally just how people go from finding out about you to becoming a paid customer. It could be they see a piece of content, they drop a word in there, they get a freebie, and then they go through an email journey. It could be you always want people to directly go from finding out about you to booking a call. It could be you like sending them to your website and the website is the funnel they go through. So think about how you want someone to go through a journey to get to know you. And the journey is how they warm up to you, how they fall in love with you, how do they realize you're credible. All of those pieces are really, really intentional. It's not just throw up a piece of marketing content someone will buy. There's a journey there.
Yeah, the best journey that has worked for me so far is organic content, sometimes paid ads. If like a piece of organic content performs really well, I can repurpose that to an ad, to the lead magnet, to the email list. And then the key piece for me has always been doing workshops. So from the email list to a workshop, and I can't remember a workshop where afterwards I didn't get at least one client from the workshop. Like that has been the missing piece in my funnels in the past or in my customer journey in the past, where I tried to go from email marketing directly to booking calls, but somehow the workshops seem to have a much higher perceived value.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That makes me think. I just read something recently. I wish I could attribute it to someone. I can't remember who it was, but they said that they added a VSL, a video sales letter, is a type of video, if you're not familiar, where you basically give the sale, give a story, and then you pitch at the end, oftentimes to book a call or to sign up for a program. So he was saying that he actually had people go through the journey, and then at some point in the email series, he sent the video. So a lot of times people, they'll put some organic content and then they'll send you to a website, and the website is a video of someone telling you a story and then telling you to book a call. And if that feels too fast, someone's not warmed up enough to buy right then, you could go through the other journey, lead magnet, get them on your email list, and then at one point you send them a video. And the video is almost like you're saying, it's the same thing as a webinar or a workshop where they're getting long form story content from you, and it builds more rapport and that potentially can lead to a book call. So yeah, it's so important to think about the way that different types of content potentially get people enough buy-in to want to buy from you. It's just so important. It's not just, again, putting something up there and then immediately making a sale.
What is your customer journey like at the moment?
Mine is very similar to yours. So I have quite a few different products. So it depends on the product. For example, I do have a book that I sell, and that's a very short user journey. So if someone lands on my website, actually the very top of my website has a button that says Learn 101 Ways to Build Wealth, takes you to my book page, and it's a sales page. So people can buy right there. I have sales that come in right away. Very, very short time span. I also have a version of that where if someone ends up getting on my newsletter list or downloading a freebie, they end up on my email newsletter. And in the first email, they also get a discount coupon code to go buy the book. And they can also pop off and buy from there. So a lot of times I have multiple journeys that I'm putting someone on so that if they're hot and ready, they can buy right away. But then also they're being nurtured to potentially buy down the road. And I've found that that works really well because it catches different people at different stages.
Yeah, you're segmenting your list very well. That's advanced.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces. And another thing I would say, if you're thinking about this and you're like, wow, I love this idea, I love all these ideas, but I feel like I have a lot of user journeys. You can either use an online tool. I love Miro. It's an online mapping tool, so it's basically like a big open grid on your screen, and you can create workflows. So I've done that where I sell books, online courses, coaching, all kinds of stuff. So I'll have the workflow for a particular item and say, I want someone, when I post, they're hopefully going to end up with this lead magnet into this email segment. They're going to get this opening sequence. You can really start to map out all the different pieces so that it doesn't just feel like you're posting and hoping. It really is intentional. And then again, with the data all along the way, you can see how many opted in, how many opened, how many clicked, how many bought, and you'll really start to understand where the leaks are potentially in that funnel.
I want to ask you a few more questions about the phases of your program, but before that, Tell us about your book. What's the name of your book? 101 Ways to Create Wealth. Is that it?
Yeah, 101 ways to build wealth. So, this was actually my first product when I launched my business. Again, my financial coaching company is Money Essentials for Women. Launched it last year and wrote the book because I grew up in a super tiny town. I'm a first gen college student. Didn't even know if I'd go get my bachelor's degree. Ended up getting my doctorate and then became a vice president. Started learning everything about money. And I realized that a lot of my friends, especially female friends, didn't know the same things I knew about money. And some of that is tax strategy, investment strategy. It's just the pieces that someone with wealth might understand, but the average American person does not. So I wrote down 101 different things that really helped me in my journey to becoming a millionaire by the time I was 35, going from $26,000 as a social worker when I graduated college to then making lots of money. And so this is just the book, like the story of my life and how I created wealth, and then 101 different ways that other people can create wealth. So it's available on Amazon. I also sell it on my website. It's, again, labor of love. It's just something that I think I'm really, really passionate about sharing with the world.
Was it difficult for you to write that book, or are you just generally a good writer?
I'm a researcher by trade. I write a lot and I write very technically. So I've done a lot of, writing in academic journals, writing very technical research language. I wrote my book in 60 days. And which definitely it surprises a lot of people, but I will just say I knew what I wanted to write and I had done a lot of writing. So I just sat down every single day for at least 30 minutes and had no pressure on editing or anything like that. I just literally wrote into a Google Doc. And then once everything was written down, I went through a pretty intensive editing process. But if you have a story inside of you and you want to write a book, I would definitely say just open a Google Doc and give yourself time every day, and you'll be amazed. You'll write the book in no time.
Yeah, I think that's the key to book writing is to just write daily. And you said 30 minutes per day. 30 minutes per day is pretty manageable. I mean, even 20 minutes, 15 minutes per day can work, right? But it's this daily routine coupled with the fact that you just write. You don't expect the chapter to be perfect. You understand that maybe you have to shuffle things around, right?
Oh yeah, I moved chapters. I completely deleted sections. I rewrote so much. So don't worry about that at all. Just write, and then at the very end, you'll move it all together. And then at the end, I also worked with another financial expert to review it and make sure everything was spot on, incredible. So there's lots of work you can do towards the end to get your book in the right place. But in the beginning, just write, and it'll feel so fun, and it will feel so open and free flowing. Yeah, don't hold yourself back from being perfect in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest stumbling block for many people who want to write the first book is that they criticize the writing way too much when they're just brain dumping whatever story they want to share into a Google Doc.
Yeah. And also, write with no expectations. If you sell one book to your mom, who cares? You wrote a book and you'll have a copy of it. You shared it with the world. Maybe you'll write a second book and it will be 100 times better. Maybe you'll never write again. Maybe you'll become a millionaire off of books. It really doesn't matter. Just write the book. It's such a fun process, no matter what the outcome is.
Yeah, I love that detachment from the outcome. And also, just the fact that you have written a book already elevates your authority, your credibility. It proves your commitment to your niche. When I was still a blogger, right, my background coming into this world was in blogging and affiliate marketing. And I was very lucky to meet Ryan Biddulph. He's a world famous blogger. Like he got famous because he was traveling the world, hopping from one beautiful island to the next, all financed through blogging and sharing it on his blog. And I remember when I met with him for the first time, first thing he said to me was, that was many, many years ago, he said to me, write a book, because then you can introduce yourself as the author of. And that alone goes a long way. So,
Yep, I also got that advice after, I forget if it was before or after I wrote the book. But I did have someone, a business coach, tell me that a book is such a great helper for businesses early on. And for me personally, writing, publishing my book, and then doing some book events was really good publicity for me. I also worked with a PR agent very early on when I launched my business to land some pretty big media features. And then after she trained me and taught me how to do it, I get media features all the time. So being in NerdWallet, Bankrate, Go Banking Rates, Business Insider, Fast Company, constantly writing and saying, I have this good knowledge. I'm very credible. Here's all the proof of that. It's huge for your business. So if you're new and starting off, it's actually relatively easy to get featured in the media if you have good expertise. So it's all about the way that you frame your story and the things that you share, but it's a huge credibility builder.
Yeah, that goes back to the messaging, right? If you understand what they want, which kind of people do they want to cover, then you can position your story and your expertise that way. Why wouldn't they want to have you in their media outlet?
Exactly. And then once you start connecting with writers, journalists, they will reach out to you again and again. I get emails all the time now. Hey, can you respond to this article in the next 2 days? It's really cool. You just build this amazing network.
Wow, that is really cool. So somebody who's starting out from scratch today, they don't have 14 channels yet. They don't have a presence, a marketing presence. Do they have to start with 14 channels? Do they start with one channel? Right? What do you recommend?
I actually recommend you start with the low hanging fruit. Do what is manageable, because if you try to do everything, you will probably do nothing and then you won't grow at all. So the best thing you can do is pick 1 to 2 things that you can start with. I would say definitely pick a social media channel to post organic content. It's just low hanging fruit. It's exposure to truly millions of people. It's free and it's easy to do. So pick a channel and think about where your ideal client is. So usually I go for either LinkedIn or Instagram. If you have a professional client, I would go for LinkedIn. Anyone else, I would go for Instagram. If you are into video, YouTube is also huge, but I find that most people aren't very knowledgeable about how to use YouTube. So if that's not your background, video isn't your thing, I would just stick with Instagram or LinkedIn. So definitely start with that. And then number 2, you want to have some piece of credibility of your online presence. So that means some sort of online site. You can build a website if you want. You can also just have a link in bio. So if you have, Canva, website, some sort of online shop, I definitely recommend a website because it just looks more credible and you can add so many features to it. So having the website, having that one social media channel, and then add one other thing. I really love PR and media because it builds you the credibility and you can put the social proof on your website. So you can say, I've been featured in XYZ news outlet. So that's a big one. But I also like podcast guesting, very similar. You're going to be able to build your credibility. But podcast guesting is long form content that is storytelling. So people are going to fall in love with you a lot more because they get to know you, versus PR is going to be short and sweet, but have that social proof of being very credible. So social media, website, and then one credibility builder.
If they start with these platforms, they do that. Which metrics or KPIs do you recommend that they track to have the data that they can make informed next decisions?
This is key. So I personally do not think followers or virality are very important at all. I have made so much money and my current Instagram following is not even 800 followers. It does not matter. It's about personal relationships. So I would be looking at if you are getting new people following your account, and then every time you have someone follow your account, are you engaging with them? So give them a welcome note, talk with them, chat with them. Don't make it salesy, just get to know people. So how many conversations are you having in a day? That would be a key metric. And that doesn't even just have to be your own social media. For example, I go on Facebook groups and LinkedIn groups a lot. I will just see questions that are there and offer a really valuable response. I've gotten lots of booked calls just by doing that. So number of conversations and actual rapport building you're doing in a day. And then also anything that's leading to a sale. So booked calls, or if you do have a link in bio, are people going in and then clicking, and then do you have a conversion rate? Like 100 people visited my shop and 10 people bought XYZ item. Those kind of things are really important. So I'd be focusing really on the things that are moving people towards engagement or a sale. Engagement on posts is also good. If people respond, I recently posted a story and got a lot of people to they ended up sending me something personal back. That's a really good sign. So look at the things that people are reacting to it so that you can post more of that content. That's going to be really important too.
What was your story that prompted people to respond?
So, speaking of podcasts, I actually just landed this amazing podcast interview with Farnoosh. I don't know if you know her. She's basically, I just said, 1 year ago, I started my business. Now I'm going to be having a money conversation with the money OG. And everyone, of course, was like, congratulations, this is awesome. So it just reminded me Immediately I remembered my community really loves to celebrate each other. It's a lot of people who are really bought in and I have strong relationships with. So again, it's like celebrating wins, talking about real life, the things that we're doing. Also, a lot of other business owners. So people are also trying to do those really cool things like land the big podcast interviews. So it seemed to really resonate with folks.
I agree. So it's conversations. And I like that you have a broader definition of conversations. It can be comments, it can be DMs. It doesn't just have to be calls booked on the calendar, because the more digital conversations we have, the more calls we'll book. It's going to shift. And then the other thing you said is signups on the email list. That's another really fantastic KPI. And paying attention to, if they choose LinkedIn or if they choose Instagram or YouTube or whatever platform, paying attention to where people react the most. Not necessarily views, but really where are people inspired to leave a comment or send you a message or things like that.
I also love threads. I started on threads maybe a month or two ago, and I find that those conversations tend to be more intimate and quicker reactions than what I've seen on Instagram, which has been interesting.
But there's no DMs yet on threads, right?
There's not, but I've actually found that a lot of folks, if I post something on threads and someone likes it, there is a link to go to my website. And then also sometimes people will pop over and end up following me on Instagram from threads. So yeah, there's some movement happening.
I agree. Threads is, it feels like Twitter 10 years ago, where people are really chatting and messaging publicly. Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't quite created the, Instagram, I think, and Twitter also have this feel of you need to put your best foot forward. Threads is, I would just want to confess something. I'm going to write it on Threads today.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to chat with someone, right? I agree. So tell us about your program. I really like that marketing is phase four. It also reminds me of a question that I think about a lot is like, how can you do successful marketing without making business decisions? And I feel like you can't. But the reality is that in the industry, many times people want to separate these tasks, right? Just do the marketing. Yeah, but we need to make a smart business decision for the marketing to work. It is so intertwined, which is great as a solopreneur, or if we have a small business and we're in control of it all. But how do you help in your program with the phases? How do you help people combine the business decisions with the marketing?
The reason that I do all that again is to be very intentional because I think it would actually be cruel to teach someone, for example, how to land a bunch of podcasts or how to get paid ads up and running and then know that their product sucks and no one's going to buy it. It wouldn't make any sense, right? So the way I do it, it's a 4-phase program and it's 6 months. So most people actually finish the online content of the 4 phases much quicker. It only takes 1 to 2 months to finish the content, but you're getting 6 months of support because that's how long it's going to take to tweak and to do the testing and to figure out what's going to work. So the 4 phases, like I said, number 1 is business foundations. So that's right product, right person, right user journey. And literally the person will learn how to set each of those pieces up and do a little bit of testing to make sure it's spot on before they move forward. And your coach is going to look at all of your pieces and give you feedback on those pieces before you move forward. So if you're, you have your product, we're going to talk through what are the features of the product, what is the price point, what is the description, what does the sales page look like, and we're going to make sure that's really perfect before we pour gasoline on it and actually send a bunch of people there. So we do that in phase 1. Phase 2 is messaging foundation. So that's where I teach people a lot about copywriting. We also talk about buyer psychology. So what does it mean to write different types of messages? What does it mean to actually write a caption? And then I also teach people how to create a social media content calendar. So that's where we go through how to come up with the ideas, how to turn them using AI to turn them into a blog post, a LinkedIn post, a carousel. So we cover all of that in messaging. Phase 3, we talk about your online presence. So we do things like create all of your profiles online and make sure they're really strong and they're clearly describing who you are and what you do. So those might be social media profiles, your about page on your website, all of the other pieces. And then we talk about building rapport. So things like how to send a friend request, what should you say in the DMs when you get a new person following you, kind of like that rapport building. And then phase 4 is the marketing phase. So we do have the 14 different marketing strategies that I use in my own business. But the goal is actually not that you do all 14. The goal is that you pick 3 to 5 that you want to test. And then for 30 days, we work together to teach you how to do that thing and then test the results. So for example, if you want to lean into PR, I'll teach you how to connect with journalists and how to pitch yourself, how to land really robust media features. And then we're going to see how much traffic did you get from that? Did you get any calls booked? Maybe you want to only lean into social media. So we're going to create 30 days of content. You're going to run that content and see how many people engage. So we do that with all these different marketing pieces. But I love that it shows people just how many options there are. It's not just social media. So if you hate social media, you can do something else. If you think podcast guesting is the most nerve-wracking thing in the world, we can do blog content. We can focus on SEO. We can focus on giveaways. We can focus on UGC or collaborators, or, there's lots and lots of different things we can do.
Yeah, but podcasting is great. Podcast guesting is awesome.
It is great. I would say, yeah, I'm an introvert and I still love it. So if you're shy and you're an introvert, I'm telling you, if you're talking about your thing, the thing that you're passionate about, it's just gonna be fun.
Agreed. Yeah, even I always knew that podcasting works until I started doing it, and then I saw how well it really works. And so, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put the link to that below the episode as well. I'm going to link to your book. I'm going to link to your program. And what's also really cool is that you offer a free 7-day trial, right? How do people qualify for that? How does it work?
So if you click the link below, you can go check out the program. We do have a very small program cohort. So I only let in a few folks every single month because we really want it to be 6 months of high access to me, high touch. We do weekly power hours. You're going to meet other people who are part of the program. We have expert workshops. We actually have, I think, 20 workshops coming up in the next 2 months. They're completely free. Things like how to grow your email list, Pinterest marketing. We really give you this robust support. So if you apply, there's a chance you won't get in right away, but if you do get in, once you get in, we give you 7 days for free, which means you immediately get into the online content. You get your first coaching session, all the pieces for 7 days. Only because I just find that so many programs are available these days, and I want someone to come in and realize this is the program I need and I want, and I have 7 days to check it out before I pay anything. And then if you decide it's a good fit, it's $299 a month for 6 months, which is also still really affordable. But we do the free trial just to make sure that folks get the exposure they want before they make any investment.
That is very generous. So they don't even have to pay first, and then after 7 days, like they can do the refund thing. They actually get to test it with you for 7 days, and then afterwards they can. I like that.
Yep, completely free. Well, and again, back to the data, I asked people to review my sales page and give me feedback and say what they would want. And this is something they said they wanted because they're so skeptical. Right now, there's so many online coaches promising that they have the answer. And it's a mystery. What will I learn in this program? Well, you don't know until you pay me $10,000. That's not what I want to do. And that's also what everyone gave me feedback on, saying if I were to become your customer, I would want to know what's in here. So the 7-day trial is really just coming out of what people asked for.
Annie, I love what you do. Thank you so much for sharing this advice authentically here. I think there's a lot of tactics and strategies that you already shared that people can implement and test after listening to us. And also, they have the KPIs now to measure it, make informed decisions based on the data. And if they need more support, I really hope they sign up for the 7-day free trial with you. Thank you, Annie.
Yep, I hope so too. Thank you so much. It was such a fun conversation.